So you're running ads on Facebook or on YouTube or on Google or on Twitter or wherever, and you're not getting the results that you had hoped. What do you do about it? So that's a complicated question, and what we need to do is we need to dig into the data, dig into the analytics to figure out what exactly is going wrong, right? Because there are actually quite a few possible points of failure. For example, you could be reaching the wrong people, right? So you could have the greatest ad in the world, but if it's reaching people that are not the sort of people that are going to be your customers, then the ad is going to flop, right? Or it could be that the ad is just not interesting enough to catch people's attention. It could also be that the ad is perfect and the targeting is perfect, but the sales process that goes with it, people are falling off, right? And so what we got to do is we got to dig into the analytics, dig into the data, and see where people are falling off, what is the bottleneck in the process, and from there, that'll give us an idea of what the problem is with the ad, and from there we can try something else and we can fix it. So let's talk about the process to begin with. So think about the customer journey that somebody goes through. Let's see, if everything goes perfect, so what happens? Well, your ad shows to the person that you want it to show to, and then that person sees the ad, is interested in the ad, continues watching or continues reading the ad until the end, and then at the end is motivated to take whatever the action is. So the action usually is going to be to click the ad. Sometimes it'll be to send a message. Sometimes it'll be to call you on the phone. Whatever the call to action is at the end. So let's say they click the ad and they go to an opt-in page, right? So they'll click on the ad and then they'll go to this opt-in page, then they'll see the opt-in page and be like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. They'll put in their information, they'll put submit, and then they'll go into whatever is the next step in the process. So they'll go and they'll book a call, for example. Maybe they'll watch a video. Like maybe there's a video on the thank you page and they click play on the video and that video sells them on booking a call, right? And so they're like, okay, that sounds good. I'm going to book a call. And then they click the button to book a call. And then they go to an application, then they go to a call calendar, and then they book a time with you, and then you talk to them on the phone, and then you close the sale over the phone, right? So if that's the way that it works, if it goes perfectly, if everything works the way that it's supposed to, look at the data and see where is it falling off, right? So is nobody clicking the ad? That gives you some information, right? Are people clicking the ad but they're not opting in? Are people opting in but they're not booking a call? Are people opting in but they're not pressing play on the video? Are they pressing play on the video but they're not watching the whole video? Right? This will give you a lot of good information on what's going on if you can pinpoint this, right? So that means that you got to dig into the data and see what is the fall off at every point. Now, the tricky part here is that there's always going to be fall off, right? That's why it's called a funnel, because the top is big and wide and then it gets narrower as you get down into the later stages of the sales process. So you want to have some kind of benchmark, and this is really tricky if you don't have experience. If you have experience or you have somebody in your corner who has experience, that person can help you and can look at those numbers and say, this number looks good, but this number is low. This number should be higher. Right, and so what I mean here is I'm saying like the cost per click, for example. If you're paying let's say, it depends on the industry too, right? It depends on what your product is, depends on what your offer is, depends on what platform you are advertising on, it depends on how many other people are advertising to the same people, right? Because the more people that are competing for your audience, the higher the ad costs are going to be. And that depends on the platform, right? So like if you're advertising on Facebook, well, everybody's on Facebook, right? So your click costs are going to be relatively high. Whereas if you're advertising on, let's say, Rumble, where hardly anybody is advertising on Rumble, your cost per click is going to be significantly lower. Also depends on your geography, right? If you're trying to target like Manhattan only, then your ad costs are going to be higher than if you're trying to target all of Mexico, right? Because there's more competition and smaller number of potential audience there, so the ad costs are going to be higher. But so compared to your baseline, compared to what's expected, is your cost per click too high? Is it good? Is it better than good? Is it lower than expected? How is the cost per click, right? And then let's say your cost per click is too high. Well, then you can even drill down a little bit further, again, depending on what ad platform you're on. So if you're on YouTube, for example, and you're running video ads, well, you can take a look at how many people watch the first 25% of the ad. And so if that number is, let's say, 20%, so I know it's confusing because there's multiple percentages, but 1 out of 5 people watch the first quarter of the ad. Put it that way to make it a little less confusing. If 1 out of 5 people watch the first quarter of the ad, then that's pretty decent performance, right? That means that the first bit of the ad, generally called the hook, the first part of the ad is doing its job to get people's attention and get them to watch at least a little bit of the rest of the ad. So now if that number is like 5%, well then your hook is not doing its job. People are not being hooked by the beginning of the ad. They are not interested. It is not getting their attention. They're just hitting skip as fast as they can. So that tells you something. Now, let's say that your clicks are good. You're getting, let's say, $1 or $2 cost per click, and assuming that in your industry that's good. But only a small percentage of those people are actually going on to the next step. So let's say it's an opt-in page and you're only getting 8% opt-in. Well, that's pretty poor. Again, depending on your industry, but probably that's pretty poor. At least for what I generally work with, that's pretty low. So if that's the case, well then you have a problem with that particular step, at least getting from click to opt-in. Now, that sounds simplistic enough, but the truth is that it's a little bit more complicated than that, because it could be, I mean, the obvious thing to do is say, okay, well, I'm getting the click, so the ad is good, but I'm not getting the opt-in, so the opt-in page needs fixing, right? It needs help. That may be the case, or it may not be. If it is the case, then yeah, you just make a better headline on your opt-in page. And generally, what I've found is that opt-in pages, you just keep them super simple and make the headline coherent with what you said in the video, because, or in the ad, if it's not a video ad, if it's, a Facebook ad or something. Yeah, I know Facebook has video ads. If it's one of the text ads on Facebook, I'm just like correcting myself just in case there's any picky people that are gonna correct me in the comments. I beat you to it. So if your ad is getting people to click, and then but then the opt-in page, like the thing that you say on the opt-in page is different or feels like a different promise or a different benefit than you were claiming in the actual ad itself, then people might not click through. It's not going to be, it's not going to be coherent. Like, they don't match. It's not, because you got to think of if this is it's a process, like it's a whole system. Just like, it annoys people when doctors see people as just, oh, there's a nose and an ear and lungs and a heart. And it's like, well, they all work together. And if you just focus on one thing and just forget about everything else, then you're missing the bigger picture. Well, the same thing is true with marketing, right? Your opt-in page is one part. It's like one part of your body, but there's a lot of other parts of your body that has to work along with. And if let's say that the ads may be causing your landing page to fail or your opt-in page to fail. And it's not always exactly clear how that is. So what happens sometimes is that you'll run an ad that will either attract the wrong kind of people, or it'll just get curiosity. Like if you run an ad that just gets people curious, but they're not actually interested, they're like, oh, this is weird, I wonder what this is, and they click on it. But they're not going to give you their contact information in most cases. They're not really that curious that they're actually going to go through the sales process, and they're not your ideal audience. If that is the case, then you have to go back and make revisions to the ad. Then your ad is actually the one that's causing the problem, because you do not want curious people. All clicks are not created equal. And the same thing is true It's raining, so I'm going to go under the awning here, even though I'm in the dark. The same thing is true with other parts of your sales process. So for example, let's say you're getting leads, you're getting opt-ins, but the people that are opting in are not the people that are your ideal customer. I found this out the hard way, like in a very dramatic fashion, when I was running some of my first ads on Facebook, and I decided that I was going to run ads to the whole world, because my thing that I was offering at the time was, I figured anybody would like it. It doesn't matter where you live. Well, it turned out that all my ads ended up going to people in Bangladesh, because I think Bangladesh had just gotten the internet for the first time. And so I got a whole bunch of opt-ins from Bangladesh, because, and you got to think of too, the way that these ad algorithms work is they optimize for the cheapest cost. So they optimize, in this case, for the cheapest cost per lead. Now, the cheapest lead is not necessarily the best lead, and all leads are not created equal. So I was getting all these people from Bangladesh who, as far as I could tell, I don't think they even could speak English. I think they just thought it was interesting that they saw an ad from an American and thought they would opt in just because they were curious. Really, none of them had any money, and I don't think any of them really even understood what it was that I was selling. I know because I had them on my email list, and they would email me, and they didn't understand anything, and their emails didn't make any sense. And so I was getting these leads for 40 cents or something stupid cheap. But they were completely useless to me. And I was training the algorithm to bring me more people that were completely useless to me. So if I looked at that just purely on the analytics, I would say, okay, well, I'm getting a good cost per click, I'm getting a good cost per lead, but I'm not doing a good job of converting leads into clients. And so I might say that, okay, well, I need to work on my sales process. The truth is, it wasn't my sales process that was a problem at all. I mean, it might have been, but I didn't know. The real problem was my targeting. I was targeting the wrong people, and the copy of my ads and my landing page apparently was not scaring away the wrong people. It was not repelling the wrong people. It was attracting the wrong people. So I was targeting the wrong people, and I was attracting the wrong people, so I was getting just flooded with low-quality leads that were never going to buy from me. So figuring that out is pretty tricky, and this Thursday, I'm going to do a workshop, a live workshop for my community members and my private clients, where I'm going to step through, systematically, step by step, exactly how to diagnose an ad that's not working, right? By looking at the analytics and by going through all the possibilities and figuring out, okay, and this is important, by the way, because it's really easy to see an ad that's not working, you run an ad, especially if you put a lot of effort into it, and then all of a sudden the ad doesn't work, and it's a big disappointment, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess it doesn't work, and I turn it off. Well, you may be kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater if you do that, because just because an ad doesn't work doesn't mean that it's 100% bad. It's quite possible that it's 99% perfect, and just one little percent, if you would tweak that, then the ad would work. But instead, you're throwing out 100% of it, and you're throwing out the 99% that's good just because of the 1% that's bad. Instead of analyzing it and saying, okay, which part of this is working, which part of this is not working, so that you can tweak that part that's good. So I'm going to be on Thursday, and Thursday has a recording this, so you may be seeing this as in the past. But I will have a recording of this. I'll have workbooks and materials, and I'm going to give everybody my actual tracking sheet that I use to track my performance at every step of the process, so that I can quickly and easily identify where the system is breaking down, or even if the system is working, it can always work better. So by looking at that, I can say, okay, well, the opt-in rate is a bit lower than I would like. Let me see if I can raise this opt-in rate from an 18% to a 22%. So this is absolutely invaluable for any kind of business that's running ads. So if you're interested, I'll put a link down in the description below if you want to check it out. If you get in early enough that it's still live, then you can make it live. If not, you'll still get the recording and all the materials. So check it out. I'll see you next time.